Chapter 36. The Unexpected Passenger. Less than third person POV greater than. The group was up early, tension hanging thick in the air. Rick and Glenn still weren't back, with Herschel. Daryl, Shane, Itachi, and T-Dog were already by one of the trucks, packing up to go look for them. Shane slammed the tailgate shut with a loud thud. When we reached town, we split into two groups, he said, checking his pistol's ammo before sliding it into the holster. To cover more ground. Daryl gave a nod. Sounds good by me. T-Dog let out a breath, rubbing the back of his neck. Man, they should have been back by now. How hard is it to find one old guy? Daryl scoffed, not even looking up. 'Cause he ain't just some old guy. He's a stubborn-ass drunk. Try dragging that back without throwing hands. Shane snorted under his breath, then walked around the side of the truck, opening the driver's side door. Enough talk. Let's move. But before anyone could reach their doors, the distant sound of an engine rolled over the fields. They all turned. A red truck came into view down the long dirt road, heading straight towards the house. Itachi, Daryl, Shane, and T-Dog all exchanged quick looks, then started walking back towards the house. The porch door creaked open. One by one, more people stepped outside, drawn by the sound. When the car stopped, Rick stepped out and Carl immediately ran to hug him. Dad. Rick hugged him back, walking towards Lori and pulling her into the hug as well. Herschel and Glenn exited the vehicle too. Maggie walked towards Herschel, smiling. You're okay. Herschel started opening his arms for a hug, but Maggie just walked past him, hugging Glenn immediately, who was right behind him. While the reunion was happening, Amy walked up to Itachi. Why do you think they took so long? Itachi shifted his gaze to the back seat of the car. Has something to do with him. Amy looked towards the back seat and saw a man with a blindfold just sitting there. What the hell? T-Dog noticed as well, raising his voice and pointing at the car. Who the hell is that? Glenn replied nonchalantly. That's Randall. Everyone was gathered at the dining table, having a discussion about the new arrival. Rick was standing, addressing the whole group. We couldn't just leave him behind. He would have bled out. After a short pause, he added, if he lived that long. Andrea looked at Rick and asked, what do we do with him? At that time, Herschel and Jenner walked into the dining room. Herschel spoke up first, wiping his blood off his hands. I repaired his calf muscle as best I can. Jenner added. But he'll probably have nerve damage. And won't be on his feet for at least a week. Rick looked at them and back at the group. When he is, we give him a canteen, take him out to the main road, send him on his way. Amy spoke up. You said he was with other people. What if he brings them here? Shane and Daryl both nodded in agreement. Dale looked at Amy, surprised. Amy, what are you implying? Amy, unsure how to answer, stuttered a bit. I'm not implying anything, letting him go like that could come back to bite us. Rick added, looking at her, he was blindfolded the whole way here. He's not a threat. Shane stared at Rick. Not a threat. How many of them were there? You killed 3 of their men, you took one of them hostage, but they just ain't gonna come looking. Rick answered immediately, raising his voice slightly. They left him for dead. No one is looking. Shane got flabbergasted. You know what? I'm gonna go get him some flowers and candy. Shane added, walking away, look at this, folks, we back in fantasy land. Herschel raised his voice as Shane walked past him. You know, we haven't even dealt with what you did at my barn yet. Let me make this perfectly clear, once and for all. This is my farm. Now I wanted you gone. Rick talked me out of it, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. So do us both a favor, keep your mouth shut. Shane just ignored him and walked past. Rick looked back at the main group, away from Shane. Look, we're not gonna do anything about it today. Let's just cool off. Amy and Itachi walked side by side, heading back towards camp. The air between them was quiet for a moment before she finally spoke. Why didn't you say anything? I wanted to see how things would play out, Itachi replied calmly. And I'm sure Daryl had the same idea as me. Amy frowned. What idea? To get information from him. Not just release him and hope for the best. She slowed down a little and asked in an uncertain voice. You mean, like interrogation? Itachi gave a single nod, saying nothing. They walked in silence for a few steps before Amy spoke again, this time more hesitantly. And you're okay with that? Itachi glanced at her. I'm okay with doing what's necessary to keep everyone safe. Amy grabbed Itachi's hand, stopping him. I'm not just talking about him, you know. I'm talking about you. Her eyes searched his face. You don't need to keep putting yourself in these situations. The camp, the CDC, the prison, you keep risking your life for us like it's your responsibility. One day, that's going to catch up to you. Itachi looked at her eyes and saw the worry. If it does, I'll deal with it. Amy looked at him for a long moment before speaking softly. If it ever gets too much, just tell me. I'll be here for you, no matter what. Itachi didn't answer right away. His eyes stayed on hers, and for a moment neither of them moved. He took a step closer, his hand tightening slightly around hers, before he leaned down and pressed a slow, gentle kiss to her forehead. Thank you, he said quietly. And you should try to get some rest. Amy stayed frozen, the faint warmth of his touch still burning on her skin. Her chest felt tight, a flush creeping across her cheeks. Words hovered on the edge of her tongue but refused to form, all she could do was give a small nod. They walked back to camp side by side, neither of them letting go. After Amy and Itachi returned, they split up, Amy heading off to help Andrea with something, while Itachi made his way back towards his tent. Could I talk with you for a second? Itachi turned, seeing Rick approaching. Sure. Rick stopped a few feet away, lowering his voice. Shane and I are going to take Randall out tomorrow to let him go. I'd like you to come with us. Itachi studied him for a moment, his eyes narrowing slightly. What's it really about? Rick hesitated, glancing over his shoulder to make sure no one was close. It's Shane, he admitted, quieter now. I think he might try something with Randall. Itachi just looked him straight in the eyes. Then you should talk to him. Now. Before you find yourself in a position where words won't fix anything. Rick's brows pulled together. You think it's that bad? You've seen it, Itachi said evenly. Every time he looks at you, every time Lori's name comes up. The tension isn't going away on its own. Ignoring it won't make it disappear, it'll just build until it snaps. Rick exhaled slowly. We've been through a lot together. Before all this, he was my partner. My brother. I keep thinking if I just give him time. It's already been too much time, Itachi cut in. You're not dealing with the man you knew before the world fell apart. You're dealing with the man he's becoming because of it. Rick's eyes flicked away for a second, his mouth tightening. I've been trying to keep the peace. We've all lost enough already. I don't want it to come to. It will, if you keep waiting, Itachi said. You need to talk to him. He feels like he lost everything the day you came back. The longer he stays in that place, the faster you lose the man you once knew. Itachi paused for a moment before continuing. I think you already know this, but you have to talk to him about the kid, about moving forward. If you don't, that might be the last straw that breaks him. Rick stayed quiet, his eyes fixed on the ground, lost in thought. Itachi turned to walk away. I'll come with you tomorrow. I still need Randall alive for now. But if you want any chance of fixing things with Shane, you need to talk to him about all of it, before it's too late. He started to walk away, and in a quieter tone, almost to himself, he added, or maybe, it already is. Chapter 37. The Boy Who Knew Too Much. Less than third person POV greater than. The car rolled down the empty road. Rick kept his eyes forward, both hands steady on the wheel. Beside him, Shane leaned against the passenger window, his jaw tight, gaze fixed on a lone walker walking along the grassy field. In the back seat, Itachi sat still with his eyes closed, his head resting lightly against the headrest. Rick's eyes flicked towards Shane, then back to the road. He drew in a breath, slow and heavy. Shane, he said quietly. When we get back, we should talk. Brother to brother. Shane turned slightly surprised. If this is about Randall, there's no need, he said, with a sharp voice. I get it, man. I really do. Kid was passed out when y'all brought him back. Rick cut him off before he could keep going. This ain't about Randall. His voice was firmer now. It's about everything that's been going on. And I mean it. I want to sit down and talk it out. He paused, the car rolling on in silence for a beat. Then he glanced at Shane again. Like we used to. Shane stared at him. After a long second, he gave the smallest nod. All right, he said, voice quieter than before. Rick looked back at the road, his grip tightening just a little on the wheel. In the back, Itachi's eyes opened slowly. He said nothing, but he watched the reflection of the two men in the rearview mirror before closing his eyes again. The car slowed to a stop in front of the Merle County Department of Public Works. A tall chain-link fence stretched across the entrance. Behind it, a wide lot sat in silence, with an old bus parked off to the side. Rick killed the engine and stepped out first, eyes sweeping the lot. Shane followed, resting a hand on his holster, his gaze drifting across the bus parked crooked near the side. Itachi slid out last, following quietly behind. "This'll do," Shane muttered, scanning the area. Rick gave a short nod. "We'll leave the boy here. Maybe scavenge some supplies while we're at it." From around the bus, a walker shambled into view, dragging its feet. Rick nodded towards it. There. Shane already had his pistol up, aiming through the fence. Rick placed a hand firmly on his shoulder. "Wait. We ought to learn something from him." His eyes flicked towards Itachi, who stood a few feet back, watching with all the interest of a man forced to sit through a rerun. Rick pulled his knife. The walker slammed against the fence, teeth snapping, fingers clawing through the wire. One sharp thrust, and the blade pierced the walker's skull. The body sagged down the fence and slid to the ground. Rick wiped the knife on his jeans and glanced back at Shane. "Gun's quick. Easy. But it draws more of 'em. There's other ways to do it." Another set of footsteps dragged against the asphalt. Rick pointed. "One more. Your turn." Shane's jaw flexed. He hesitated, then shoved his pistol back into its holster. Knife in hand, he waited until the walker pressed against the fence. In one quick move, he stepped up and drove the blade through the chain link into its forehead. The body slumped against the gate and slid to the ground. Rick gave a small nod and unlatched the fence. The three of them slipped through, scanning the empty lot until it was clear. When they circled back to the car, Itachi wordlessly popped the trunk. Randall lay there curled inside, wrists tied behind his back, a black bag pulled over his head. Shane grabbed under one arm while Itachi took the other, hauling him up by the armpits. Randall stumbled as they dragged him across the asphalt into the center of the lot. Shane ripped the bag from his head and tore the tape off his mouth. Randall blinked against the daylight, his face twisting in confusion. "What the hell is this?" His voice cracked. No one answered. They turned and started walking back without a word. Randall's breathing hitched, panic rising. "Oh, come on, don't be stupid. I owe you guys. I can help protect what you've got." Boots kept crunching over gravel. No reply. "You saved me just to leave me here. That's a death sentence." His voice pitched higher, desperation clawing at his throat. One guy can't make it alone. That's why I was with those dudes. I didn't have a choice." Rick stopped. He pulled his knife from his belt, flipped it once, and let it clatter onto the ground between them. Randall flinched, eyes darting to the blade and back at Rick. "Don't be stupid," he pleaded, voice shaking. "I'm not like them. I'm just some guy. I used to watch football and screw around online. Lived with my mom." His chest heaved. "I lost her, same as you lost people." His voice broke harder. "I went to school with Maggie, for God's sake." That made Rick and Shane freeze. Randall saw it, saw the crack, and kept clawing at it. "I went to church. Rode the bench on varsity baseball." Rick's face tightened, his voice sharp. "You went to school with Maggie." Shane stormed back towards Randall. "You go to school with Maggie. Answer the damn question." Randall shook his head frantically, words tumbling too fast to catch. She didn't know me. Didn't even know I existed. But I knew her. I knew her dad. I swear, I would never hurt her, never hurt her family." Rick's hand tightened around the knife hilt at his belt. His voice was barely a whisper. "Jesus." Shane's face twisted. He ripped his pistol free, eyes blazing. "He's a threat." Itachi finally stepped forward, his voice cutting through like steel. "Not yet." Shane snapped his head towards him. "You out of your goddamn mind." Itachi didn't blink. "We need to know if more people know about Maggie. If he told anyone. If his group knows where the farm is. After that, you can do whatever you want with him." Randall lurched forward onto his knees, shaking violently. "I didn't tell anyone. I swear, nobody knows. Please, don't kill me. Please." Shane aimed lower, finger brushing the trigger, breathing hard. Rick finally broke from the shock. His voice was steady, but his eyes were still shaken. "He's right. We don't know who else knows. We have to bring him back." The silence stretched. Shane's eyes darted between them, rage simmering, his chest heaving. Then, with a sharp breath, he shoved the pistol back into his holster. "Fine." He just turned around and started heading back towards the car without another word. Randall collapsed forward, his bound arms twisting awkwardly behind him as he hit the ground chest first. Tears cut messy tracks through the dust as he writhed helplessly, his voice breaking into frantic sobs. "I don't wanna die out here. Please, don't do this." He gasped, choking on his own panic. His body jerked against the restraints like he could claw his way free, but the ropes only bit deeper into his wrists. He kicked at the ground, twisting, thrashing, but there was nowhere to go, no escape. The car pulled up the dirt path and rolled to a stop in front of the farmhouse. Everyone was already waiting, gathered in a loose cluster near the porch, tension hanging heavy in the air. Itachi was the first one out. Amy took a step forward, worry plain on her face. He gave her the faintest smile, then a small shake of his head. She stopped where she was, just watching him, her eyes following as he moved towards the trunk. Without another word, he popped the trunk open. Randall was inside, curled and bound. Itachi motioned to Daryl. He didn't ask a single question, just came over without hesitation. Together, they hooked under Randall's arms and started dragging him across the dirt towards the old shed. Rick had stepped out by then, his eyes going to the rest of the group. We need to talk. All of us. His voice was low but carried enough weight to get them moving. He led them a little further out, away from the farmhouse and the shed, until they were in a clear patch near the RV. Shane stayed at his side, arms crossed. Andrea, Glenn, Carol, Dale, Jenner, T-Dog, Jackie, and Jim drifted in closer, forming a rough circle. Amy lingered back with the kids and the Green family near the porch. Rick stood in the center, hands on his hips for a moment before dropping them. His eyes swept the circle. That boy, he started, his voice low, knows Maggie. The reaction was instant. Eyes widened. Andrea swore under her breath. Jenner looked down, lips pressed thin. Carol's hand shot to her mouth. Glenn stepped forward first, face pale. Wait, what? He knows Maggie. Rick gave a tight nod. Glenn's voice cracked higher, urgent. So what does that mean? Are we keeping him here? Rick shook his head slightly. We don't know yet. But we'll find out soon. No one spoke after that. The circle stayed silent, each of them caught in their own thoughts about what came next. Chapter 38. The Living Judge the Living. Less than third person POV greater than. The group was still huddled together near the farmhouse, tension hanging heavy in the air after Rick's revelation about Randall. Then movement caught Rick's eye. He straightened and looked past the others. They're here, Rick said firmly. Every head turned. Daryl and Itachi were walking up, both having cleaned up and changed into fresh clothes before returning. When they got closer, Daryl was the first to speak. Boys got a gang. 30 men, he said, eyes sweeping the group. They got heavy artillery, and they ain't looking to make friends. They roll through here, our boys are dead. And our women, they're gonna wish they were. And that even includes Sophia. Silence fell like a stone. Carol's hand shot up to cover her mouth. Glenn muttered, almost to himself, Jesus. T-Dog spat the words out. That ain't a group, that's a pack of animals. The words hung in the cold air, the group staring at Daryl as the reality began to sink in. Itachi finally spoke, his voice cutting through the uneasy silence. They've got more than rifles. One armored car, military style with a mounted gun on top. Eyes widened. A murmur rippled through the group. They're well supplied, he went on. Not from scavenging towns. From taking it off other survivors. Killing them, stealing what they had. Andrea's arms crossed tight over her chest. Glenn's face went pale. Even Dale's gaze faltered. And judging by the track they're running, Itachi finished, they're not moving on. They're scouting the area. Planning to stay close. Rick's eyes stayed fixed on Daryl and Itachi. His voice was steady, but there was a hard edge to it. Did they know about the farm? Daryl shook his head. No. Nothing about the farm. Rick just gave a single nod. No one goes near this guy, he said, his voice carrying over the group. Lori stepped forward, eyes searching his. Rick, what are you gonna do? We have no choice, Rick answered. He's a threat. We have to eliminate the threat. Dale's voice cut in, sharp. You're just gonna kill him. Rick didn't flinch. It's settled. I'll do it today. Dale stepped forward, shaking his head. You can't do this. You don't want to do this. I know you don't. Rick's eyes hardened. Knowing what we know now, I don't see a way out of it. But you can't just decide on your own to take someone's life, Dale shot back. The group seemed supportive, Rick said flatly. Dale's voice rose, frustration spilling out. Because they didn't speak back. You didn't let them. There's gotta be a process. Rick's tone sharpened. And what would that be? We can't call witnesses, go before a judge. So he's automatically guilty by association and sentenced to death. Dale fired back. He's just a kid. Please give me some time to speak with everyone. People are scared. They need time to discuss this. Jackie joined in. Let's just save everyone the time and vote now, because I'd rather have walkers in the barn than that scum walkin' free for another night. Daryl snorted. He won't be walkin' much anymore. Carol glanced at him. What did you do? Had a little chat, Daryl answered, leaving it there. Rick stepped in before Dale could speak again. Fine. I'll inform Herschel if he wants to be part of this. Everyone else, you've got an hour to think it through. Then he turned and walked off, not giving Dale the chance to finish. The group began to scatter, some breaking off into smaller knots, while others headed back towards the house or their tents. Itachi walked over to Jenner and stopped right in front of him. Could you come with me? Jenner studied him for a long moment, then gave a slight nod. Without a word, he slipped into his tent and returned with a first aid kit. Together, they made their way towards the shed. Amy noticed them passing by the house. After a brief pause, she left the porch and started walking towards them. Can I come as well? She asked. Itachi slowed, considering her request for a moment before giving a single nod. As they walked past the farmhouse, Amy glanced at Itachi. How did the meeting go? They'll hold another meeting in an hour. Randall's group, they're dangerous. Amy didn't press him further, though worry lingered in her eyes. As they drew closer to the shed, a faint noise leaked through the door, broken, stuttering. Whimpers. Itachi stopped at the door, his eyes flicking to Amy. Are you sure you want to go inside? She hesitated, her lips parting without a word. Then, with a small nod, she steadied herself. Yes. Itachi pulled the door open. The smell hit first, a mix of stale blood and sweat. Randall was bound tightly to a support beam, chains biting into his wrists. His body was a wreck of bruises and cuts, limbs bent at unnatural angles. Only his lips moved, a hoarse whisper spilling the same words again and again. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. His eyes were open, glassy and unfocused, like there was nothing left behind them. Jenner shook off his surprise quickly and stepped in without a word, crouching beside Randall to assess the damage. His hands moved with clinical ease as he opened the kit and began tending to the worst of the injuries. Amy froze in the doorway, her breath catching as her eyes flicked from Randall's mangled body to Itachi. She stayed there in silence, unable to look away from the scene in front of her. Jenner worked with steady hands, eyes fixed on Randall's injuries as he cleaned a cut across the man's shoulder. He's in bad shape, he said flatly. You both really didn't hold back. Itachi stood just behind him. Don't let him die yet. Not until we're done with him. Jenner glanced up, then nodded. He worked in silence for a moment. He's not fatally wounded. Infection's the only risk. Amy finally spoke quietly. Isn't this too far? Jenner answered for Itachi without looking up. If you'd heard what his group does, you wouldn't be asking that. Itachi exhaled slowly. They're rapists and killers. They hunt survivors, take what they want. Amy didn't answer. She just stood in the doorway, watching Randall, her expression caught somewhere between fear and disbelief. When Jenner finished tending the wounds, he packed the kit and gave Itachi a nod. They stepped out together. Amy stayed in the doorway for a moment, her eyes fixed on Randall, before she finally followed them. By the time they arrived at the house, the sun had already set, and the others were already waiting to decide Randall's fate. Everyone was gathered in the dining room, seated in tense silence. The only one missing was Beth. Glenn spoke first. So how do we do this? Just take a vote. Andrea frowned. Maybe we make it unanimous. Lori rubbed her forehead. How about majority rules? Rick held up a hand. Let's just see where everybody stands, then we can talk through the options. Shane's answer was blunt. Where I sit, there's only one way to move forward. Dale pushed back immediately. You're just gonna kill him. I mean, why even bother voting? It's clear which way the wind's blowing. Rick's voice was calm, but hard. If people believe we should spare him, I want to know. Dale shook his head. Well, I can tell you it's a small group. Maybe just me and Glenn. Glenn shifted uncomfortably. Look, I think you're right about most things, pretty much all the time, but this. Dale cut in, sharp. They've got you scared. He turned towards Maggie. How about you? You agree with this? Maggie's face tightened. Couldn't we keep him prisoner? Quote. Daryl snapped, standing up. What the hell is that? You got a killer on your hands and you wanna put him in a bed and feed him. His voice turned bitter. Why don't you bake him a damn pie while you're at it? Dale tried again. You don't know, he's just a kid. Daryl cut him off, voice loud and angry. Oh, right. Excuse me, staying with a group of killers and shooting our boys don't count. Dale stared at them, hard. So the answer is to kill him. If we do this, we're saying there's no hope. The rule of law is dead. There is no civilization. Daryl spat it out. You only see it now. There ain't no cops, there ain't no judges, we make the rules. And I ain't wastin' food on no Sanuva bitch who tried to kill us. Rick held up his hands. Alright, let's calm down. Patricia asked, if you go through with it, how would you do it? Would he suffer? Shane shrugged. We could hang him. Snap his neck. Rick rubbed his temple. I thought about that. Shooting might be more humane. Itachi's answer was flat. I could kill him while he's asleep. He wouldn't feel anything. T-Dog spoke up. And what about the body? We bury him. Amy's voice was small. We could burn it. Dale cut in, furious. You're talking like it's already decided. Jackie snapped back. What other choice is there? We can't keep him. We can't let him go. It's more humane to end it now than keep him locked up in a shed for the rest of his life. Dale stared at them. Is this what it's come to? We kill someone because we can't decide what else to do with him. Itachi's voice was blunt. We kill him because he tried to kill us first. Dale's hands shook. He's been tortured. He's going to be executed. How are we any better than those people we're so afraid of? Jenner looked at Dale. I don't see any of us hunting other survivors or women. Dale turned to Rick, desperate. You once said we don't kill the living. Rick's reply was cold and simple. Well, that was before the living tried to kill us. Dale saw no faces move with him. He swallowed hard. I won't be a party to it. I can't. With that, he stood and walked away. Rick sighed and let his eyes drift around the table, searching each face one by one. No one moved. No one spoke. Dale stood alone. Then it's decided. We'll do it tonight. Shane, Daryl, and Itachi stay here for a bit. Test tube author's note. Thank you all so much for the support and for 300 plus power stones. Hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know what you thought of the story and the character interactions in the comments. I love reading your reactions. Thanks again for reading Black Heart. 42 comments 0 vote. Chapter 39. Let the hunt begin. Less than third person POV greater than. The meeting ended and only Rick, Shane, Daryl, and Itachi stayed behind. When the last of the others left, Rick closed the door and came back to the table. I want to ask your opinion, where should we do it, and how? He said. Shoot him in the shed. No point dragging it out, Shane answered. Or the barn, Daryl said. Somewhere away where others won't see it. But dragging him there will be a pain the way he is now. Itachi nodded. The shed would be simpler. So who's gonna do it? Shane asked. Rick pushed his fingers through his hair. I will. I brought him here. It's on me to take him out. I could make him unable to speak or move, Itachi offered. Would make it easier on you. Shane stared at him. Kinda messed up how natural that sounds comin' from you. Rick ignored Shane. He deserves to at least say his last words, if he has any. No objections from me, Daryl said. Shane nodded. Me as well. Itachi nodded. But what do we do with the body? We don't really know him, Rick said. Burn it. No one will have the energy to dig a grave in the middle of the night. The room went quiet after Rick's last words. For a moment, none of us spoke, just the ticking of the clock on the wall. Then, an engine. We heard a car rolling slowly, then suddenly speeding off. Shane's brow furrowed. What the hell? He pushed back from the table and walked to the window. He leaned closer, squinting through the glass. Son of a bitch, someone is driving away with one of our cars. Then, shouting outside. We immediately got up and started heading outside to figure out what was happening. They didn't have to wait long once outside. Amy and Andrea came running towards them from across the yard, both out of breath. Andrea bent forward, clutching her knees, gasping for air, while Amy stayed upright. Her chest was heaving, but she managed to hold herself steady. Andrea tried to speak through the broken breaths. Dale, Car, Randall. She couldn't get it out. Amy stepped in, hurriedly trying to explain. We don't know what's happening. We just saw Dale drive up to the shed, carry Randall to the car, and speed off. The words hit hard. Shane's face twisted with rage. Son of a bitch. Get the guns. Rick turned sharply to the others rushing over. Glenn, Maggie, and T-Dog had just arrived, confusion written across their faces. Tell everyone to get inside the house and arm up, Rick barked. Dale just took Randall. Glenn froze. For real. T-Dog grabbed him by the arm, pulling him towards the camp. No shit, they wouldn't joke about this. Maggie rushed past them, already heading for the house. I'll tell Daddy. Rick looked to the three beside him. Shane, Daryl, Itachi, you're with me. He turned towards Andrea and Amy. Tell everyone else to get inside the house. I'll get the car, Daryl said, already moving. Shane stormed off towards the weapons. Amy stepped forward slowly, almost uncertain, before slipping her arms around him and pulling him into a hug. Just come back safe. Itachi smiled softly and drew her closer, holding her as if to calm her racing heart. When he finally eased back, his gaze met hers. I will. He pulled away and followed Rick, leaving Amy standing there, watching him go. By the time he reached the others, Shane was already loading rifles, Daryl tossing spare mags into the backseat. Rick climbed behind the wheel without a word. The doors slammed shut. Weapons shifted at their sides as the car lurched forward, engine growling as they sped down the dirt road after Dale and Randall. Rick drove off at full speed, leaving the farm behind, already thinking where Dale could be heading. He's gonna try to release him. Daryl shook his head. Not a chance. Kid probably ain't got a single unbroken bone. Itachi spoke up next. Then Dale will try to take him back to his gang. Rick's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror, catching the two in the backseat. You know where they're staying? Daryl shook his head. Not sure. Randall mentioned they planned to stay in the woods for a couple days before hitting the road again. They might not even be there anymore. Rick didn't hesitate. Then that's where Dale's taking him. Tell me how to get there. Shane slammed a fist against the door. That fucking idiot. Doesn't he get he's risking all our lives? Rick's grip on the wheel tightened. In his mind, he's saving one life. Shane snapped back. By risking ours. Daryl leaned forward from the back seat. We need a plan. If they're there, we can't just roll up and ask if they mind giving back our prisoner. Rick dragged a hand down his face. I know. Any ideas? Itachi answered calmly. A couple. Meanwhile, Randall's camp. The fire cracked in the middle of the clearing, shadows moving across the rough faces gathered around it. Empty beer cans and torn wrappers littered the ground. Hell of a haul today, Vince said, tossing a bag of jerky down beside him. Gas, ammo, and even a bottle of whiskey. Ain't bad for a day's work. Tyler smirked, leaning back on his hands. Not as good as last night, though. Had myself a fine time with that redhead. Across the fire, Cody scoffed. Yeah, and you only got her 'cause Travis pussied out. Travis glared at him. She was already cold, man. Tyler chuckled, shaking his head. Better than nothing. A few of the others laughed, the sound mixing with the crackle of the fire. Then the headlights swept across the trees. The laughter stopped. Every man stiffened, hands going to rifles and pistols propped at their sides. Car, Marcus muttered, already raising his weapon. The engine grew louder, getting closer by the second. The men gathered around the fire, grabbing their weapons and aiming at the approaching vehicle. It rolled to a stop a couple of meters away. The door creaked open, and Dale stepped out, arms raised high. His face was pale, eyes darting between the muzzles leveled at him. Don't shoot. I brought your friend back. He called out, voice shaking. I brought Randall back. Randall. Vince stepped closer, rifle steady on Dale. Marcus barked a laugh. Go check the car. Cody walked forward, gun still raised, and leaned to peek into the back seat. He chuckled, looking back at the others. He brought the little pedo back. Kid's a bit fucked up, but alive. Not bad, old timer, Tyler sneered. A couple of them rushed over, yanking the door open and dragging Randall out. He hit the ground hard, coughing blood, eyes rolling back as he tried to lift his head. Damn, he's really fucked up, Wade muttered. Randall coughed, weak and broken, his voice barely above a rasp. Please. Before he could finish, Marcus stepped up and drove his knife straight into Randall's chest. Randall slowly lifted his head. Seeing the blade buried in his chest, he reached a trembling hand towards Dale, muttering weakly. Help, me. Dale went pale, dropping to his ass as Randall's body twitched once, then went still. Marcus yanked the blade free and wiped it on his jeans. We ain't carrying dead weight. You should be thanking me instead. God. No, Dale scrambled back toward the car, but a shot rang out. His leg gave out, blood spilling as he dropped to the ground. He screamed, clutching at the wound, rolling in the dirt. Vince stepped up, grinning down at him. Where you think you're going, old man? We got some questions for you. Test tube author's note. Thank you all so much for the support, over 500 plus power stones. This one's a little shorter. I didn't want to break the next chapter into 2 parts and leave you hanging, and I also wanted enough time to try and finish chapter 40 tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know what you thought of the chapter and the direction the story is heading. Thanks again for reading Black Heart. 35 comments 0 vote. Chapter 40. No place for the weak. Less than third person POV greater than. Dale was on his knees, one eye swollen. Blood ran down his chin and dripped into the dirt. Marcus had a fist wrapped in the old man's hair, yanking his head back whenever he tried to lower it. Where you from, huh? Vince barked, pacing back and forth with his rifle hanging loosely at his side. Don't sit there grunting. Answer the damn question. Tyler grinned, leaning in from the other side of the fire. Forget that. Ask the important shit first. He jerked his chin towards Dale. You got women, old man. Maybe a daughter, maybe a niece. Marcus punched Dale square in the face, still holding him by the hair. Blood sprayed from his nose as his head snapped to the side. You hear that, old timer? We got the whole night to play with you, so you'd better answer. Dale stayed quiet, refusing to meet their eyes, gaze drifting somewhere far off. Marcus sneered and ground his boot down on Dale's shot leg. The old man's scream ripped out, echoing across the camp. Instead of pity, it drew grins. The others leaned in closer, feeding off it like jackals. His pain wasn't just noise, it was entertainment, and it brought nothing but joy to the group. Wade spat into the dirt, eyes flicking toward Randall's corpse still sprawled in the dirt nearby. Should have kept him breathing. Boy would have told us what we wanted. He glanced back at Marcus, lips curling. Maybe you ought to learn a thing or two from them, huh? Neil shifted uneasily, staring at Randall's body. You sure this is a good idea? I mean, look at what they did to him. Travis barked a laugh. Look at the old man. Bringing our friend back. There's no need to be scared of a group that keeps people like him. Marcus sneered, yanking Dale's head back by the hair until his neck strained. Randall was a useless loudmouth. And here, he shoved Dale's face toward the firelight, making sure everyone saw the blood and swelling. We got someone who'll tell us everything. His grin widened. Ain't that right, Grandpa? Dale coughed, blood bubbling in his throat before he spat thick and red onto Marcus's boot. His voice came out ragged, more breath than strength, but steady enough to cut through the laughter. You bloody animals, you won't get a damn word out of me. Marcus's face twisted, blood shining on his boot. He yanked Dale's hair back harder, knuckles whitening around the grip. Big mouth for a man with one foot in the grave. Vince stepped closer, lips curling into a grin. Shut him up already. Marcus's jaw clenched. He yanked Dale's hair back harder and drew his fist, ready to smash it into the old man's face. His arm tensed. A muffled thud cut through the night. Marcus froze mid-swing. His eyes went wide, a dark hole opening in the center of his forehead. For half a heartbeat, he just stood locked in place, fist still raised. Then his grip loosened, and he toppled sideways, crashing into the dirt beside Dale. For a breath, no one moved, no one spoke, just the sound of the fire crackling. Then Vince shouted, "Shit, he's not alone." The circle broke all at once. Rifles jerked up, and men started yelling over each other. Travis's eyes went wide, whipping towards the tree line. Where the hell did that come from? I don't fucking know. Tyler barked back, jerking his rifle up. Just shoot. Gunfire exploded as men fired wildly into the dark, muzzle flashes lighting their faces in frantic bursts. Tent flaps burst open. More of Randall's crew stumbled out of their tents, half-dressed, blinking against the firelight. Confusion turned to panic as they saw the bodies on the ground. They raised their rifles without even asking questions and poured more lead into the dark. Through it all, Dale started dragging himself away on his elbows, inch by inch, trying to crawl out of the circle of chaos while no one was looking. Somebody get the damn truck. Vince bellowed over the gunfire, pointing towards the hulking shape of the armored car parked at the edge of camp. Go. Move. One of the younger men broke from the circle and sprinted for it. He made it 3 steps before an arrow hissed out of the treeline and buried itself in his neck. The man stumbled, gurgled, and dropped face first into the dirt, limbs twitching as blood poured from his neck. Fuck. Travis shouted, whipping his rifle towards the right. More on the right. No, you fucking idiots. Vince snapped, shoving one of the men away and storming towards the fire. Extinguish the fire. They can see us, and we can't see shit. A few men cursed under their breaths, moving towards the campfire, kicking dirt and stamping at the burning logs. The fire sputtered as rags and boots smothered it, sparks spitting out before vanishing into smoke. One by one, the flames guttered out until the camp sank into near total darkness. For a moment, all they could hear was their own breathing, ragged and fast, and the ringing in their ears from the gunfire. The fire sputtered and died, leaving the camp swallowed in black. Shapes of tents loomed faint and uneven, but everything else was swallowed in shadow. In the car earlier, Itachi laid out the plan. And when the light dies, only then open your right eye. One adapts to the light, the other to the dark. Shit, I can't see a thing, Neil whispered, voice shaking. Keep quiet, Wade hissed back, eyes darting across the tree line. Just listen. Neil turned, trying to pierce the dark. You hear da. A flash of movement on the left, and a kunai buried itself deep into the side of his head. Neil dropped without a sound, his body folding to the dirt. Left. There's more, Travis shouted, jerking his rifle towards where the kunai had come from. Before he could fire, all he saw was the black tip of an arrow jutting halfway through his neck. His rifle slipped from his hands as a wet gurgle spilled out, as he dropped to the ground. The camp was disorganized, broken apart in seconds. They didn't know how many were out there, only that they were surrounded. Every muzzle flash lit their own faces, every shot wasted into the dark. They kept firing, waiting for a scream, some proof they'd hit something. Nothing came. Only silence. Only death. Push to the left and a crossbow hisses from the right, swing fire the other way, and a kunai comes your way, left and right, like a dance in death's cruel delight. The survivors began pulling back, firing in short bursts as they stumbled towards the cars, fear gripping them and steering every move. Then they saw it, the heavy gun mounted on the armored truck, its barrel slowly swinging their way. The first bursts chewed through them, ripping men off their feet. The crack of the weapon drowned out everything else. Behind the gun was Rick, face set like stone as he swept the line. That was the signal. From the front, Shane's suppressed rifle broke the night one more. Men screamed, collapsing in heaps as rounds tore through them. He's in the fucking tree. Someone shrieked, pointing at the muzzle flash glowing above the ground. Panic surged. They tried to scatter, but death came from every side now. And then Itachi moved. He slipped from the dark like a shadow peeling off the trees, kunai in one hand, blade in the other. The first man never saw him, only the flash of steel across his throat before he collapsed. Another jerked his rifle up, but a shuriken spun through the dark and buried itself in his face, dropping him where he stood. A third tried to scream a warning, but Itachi was already there, slipping inside his reach. The blade flashed once, twice, then the man's arm split open to the bone, weapon falling before his chest was stabbed through. They couldn't follow him. He was never where they aimed. Shadows twisted into shapes they thought they saw, but by the time their fingers pulled the trigger, he was already gone, swallowed back into the darkness, like the night itself was his shield. Vince's chest heaved, the rifle shaking in his hands as he fired wild bursts into the dark. Blood slicked his face, running from a cut across his brow. Beside him, Tyler clung to his gun like a lifeline. Keep shooting. Vince barked, though his voice cracked with the strain. Don't stop. Just keep shooting. Then it hit them, the silence. Bodies lay scattered across the camp, limbs twisted, faces slack in the dirt, eyes frozen wide with fear. Every last one of them. Tyler's breath stuttered. His voice came out in small broken pieces. This has to be a dream, right? Before Vince could answer, an arrow appeared clean through Tyler's mouth. His eyes went glassy, his body folding in on itself as he fell on his knees. Vince stared at him for a heartbeat, the silence pressing in. A jagged, broken laugh spilled from his chest. He raised his rifle like he was going to fire, then stopped, the gun slipped from his hands, and clattered to the ground. What's the point anymore, he muttered. This whole damn world's already dead. A rifle shot came flying from the tree line. The round tore clean through his head, snapping him sideways before he hit the ground. The echo of the gunfire faded, leaving nothing but the smell of gunpowder and blood, bodies sprawled in the dirt, fire burned out, and only the stench of death clinging to the air. From the tree line, Daryl stepped out slowly, one hand clamped over his bleeding shoulder where a stray bullet had hit him. That's when the ground shifted. One of the bodies rolled suddenly, arms shooting out to grab Daryl's leg. With a violent pull, the man dragged him down into the dirt. Daryl grunted as his crossbow slipped from his grip. Before he could recover, the man twisted underneath him, locking his arms around Daryl's neck. He clamped down tight, dragging Daryl against his chest, using him like a shield. Daryl gagged, clawing at the arm, crushing his throat. Die, you bitch. The man snarled, spit flying as he squeezed harder. Shane raised his rifle but froze. The angle was all wrong. One twitch and he'd put a round straight through Daryl. Daryl clawed at the man's arm, boots digging into the dirt, but the grip only tightened. Then a single gunshot cracked through the chaos. The round punched through the man's temple, snapping his head back. Daryl rolled free, gasping for air, coughing hard as he scrambled to his knees. His eyes shot towards the tree line. Dale sat slumped against a tree, pistol shaking in his bloody hands, smoke still curling from the barrel. Dale slid down along the trunk, collapsing onto his ass at the base. The revolver slipped from his trembling hands, his chest rising and falling in ragged pulls. Dale. Daryl rasped, clutching his shoulder as he ran to him, dropping down at his side. Rick jumped off the armored car, Shane moving in with his rifle lowered, and Itachi stepped out of the woods following after Rick. After a while, they gathered around Dale. Itachi crouched beside Dale as he checked over the old man's wounds. For a moment, he was silent, then gave a small nod. Nothing major is hit. You'll live. Dale let out a ragged breath, leaning back against the tree. Shane stepped forward, full of rage. The fuck was going through your head when you decided to come here? Shane. Rick's tone cut him off. Not now. We'll talk when we're back. Right now, we take what we can and get out before walkers start showing up. Dale coughed and waved them off. Go. I'll stay here a bit, need some rest. The group split off, fanning through the camp. They tore through pockets and packs, stripping the dead of anything worth taking. Be careful, Daryl muttered. Some of them might be playing dead. And make sure they're shot in the head. Shane frowned, glancing over. I get the first part, but why the head? Daryl grunted, not looking up. Just shut up and do it. Shane grumbled, but bent down and started yanking knives, ammo, and rations from the corpses. Rick moved slower, watching Daryl as he worked. Then his eyes lifted to Itachi, the two men sharing a look before Rick went on to help. Itachi stepped over to Daryl. How's the shoulder? Daryl snorted, blood seeping through the torn sleeve. I had worse. I'll live. Itachi gave a small nod. Place all the guns in the armored car. We're taking it back. They piled rifles and ammo into the armored car, siphoned gas into spare cans, and crammed the rest into bags. For a time, it was quiet, only the four of them moving in sync, to strip the camp of anything valuable. Then a scream tore the silence. Dale. They sprinted back towards Dale. Dale was thrashing, pistol still in his grip. Randall's corpse was on top of him, teeth buried deep into his shoulder. The old man's face twisted in agony as blood sprayed down his sleeve. Itachi immediately pulled out a kunai and tossed it into Randall's skull with a dull crack. They rushed to him. Dale was pale as ash, sweat streaked down his bloody face. His whole body shook from the shock and the pain tearing through him. Rick started pacing in circles, hands pulling at his hair. No, 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 no. He didn't know what to do, didn't know how to stop it. Even Itachi stood still, just watching the wound on Dale's shoulder without moving. Daryl moved slowly. He tore the pistol from Shane's belt, the weight almost dragging in his grip. He raised it, arms trembling, the barrel pointed at Dale. Dale gave him a faint, broken smile. Don't worry, son, there's no place for people like me left in the world anymore. Daryl's jaw clenched. His finger tightened. Thank you. His eyes wavered, just for a second. And sorry. The shot cracked through the camp, echoing off the trees. Test tube author's note. Thank you all so much for the support, over 700 plus power stones. Now, a bit about the chapter. This chapter took way longer than I thought, roughly 10 hours to finish XD. I didn't want the enemies to feel generic, like bad guy number 1 and bad guy number 2. I wanted them to have personalities and traits, to feel alive and real, not just faceless bodies for the MC to crush. Could Itachi have done this alone? Yep. But I didn't want him to just wipe them all out and end it. That's why I made the fight more tactical, with each character having their own role in taking the camp as a team. This chapter was told from Randall's group's perspective to show how terrifying it is to face someone like Itachi as a leader, and how quickly they fell apart. Lastly, Dale, I wanted him to die by Randall's hands to bring things full circle, how he once tried to save a life, and that same life ended up taking his. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Did you enjoy the action scenes or not? Blackheart, thanks again for reading. 50 comments, 0 vote. Chapter 41, Born to Turn. Less than third person POV greater than. The farm had gone quiet. Every light inside the greenhouse was turned off. Weapons were clutched in nervous hands. The group was spread through the living room and hallway, ready for anyone unexpected to show up. T-Dog stood slightly hidden by the front window, peering through the smallest gap in the curtain as he scanned the yard. A few feet over, Otis kept his post at the next window, rifle close at hand, his eyes fixed on the dirt drive leading into the farm. Behind them, Carol and Lori sat close with the children. Sophia clung to her mother's waist, her small hands trembling, while Lori gently stroked Carl's hair, whispering soft promises that Rick would be alright. Glenn shifted uneasily. They should be back by now. T-Dog didn't look away from the window. Yeah, I don't like this one bit. Not after what Daryl and Itachi said about their group. The words hung in the silence of the room. A creak sounded on the stairs as Herschel came down and stepped into the room where the group was gathered. How's Beth? Patricia asked in a quiet voice. Herschel's gaze lowered, his shoulders slumping. Not well. She's barely responding to anything. His eyes flicked towards Andrea, softening. And thank you, for stopping her. I don't know what I'd have done if she. His words trailed, but the meaning was clear. Andrea gave him a small smile. There's no need to thank me. I don't know what I'd do if I lost my sister. For a moment, something gentle passed between them. Herschel gave her a grateful nod, lips tugging at the faintest smile. The fragile calm was shattered when Otis stiffened by the window. Wait, I see something. Everyone tensed. Hands gripped tighter around weapons. Glenn spun, rushing up the stairs to alert Maggie and Jimmy. From the couch, Lori's voice broke the silence. Are they back? T-Dog squinted harder through the gap, leaning forward. That's their car. A pair of headlights rolled up the dirt road and slowed to a stop just beyond the gate. The driver's side door opened. Rick stepped out alone, raising an arm to wave towards the house. It's Rick. Someone whispered, relief breaking through the tension. The air eased slightly as Rick climbed back into the car and drove it up towards the porch. The group poured outside cautiously, only to freeze when they saw him clearly. His figure was bloody, his clothes torn, exhaustion written across every line of his face. Amy's eyes darted to the car. Empty. Her stomach dropped. She opened her mouth to ask questions, but Lori spoke first. Where's Shane? Amy added quickly, her own voice tight with worry. And the others? Are they okay? Rick paused, his expression unreadable as his eyes settled on Lori. They're okay. They should be here any minute. As if on cue, another truck rumbled into view. And behind it, the unmistakable grind of an armored military vehicle, its hood smeared with dried blood. T-Dog blinked hard. Holy shit. Beside him, Jenner's eyes widened, disbelief flashing across his face. Don't tell me. The vehicles pulled into the driveway. Daryl climbed out of the first truck, blood streaking his arms and face. From the armored car stepped Shane, grimy, exhausted, and beside him, Itachi, calm and composed, his clothes untouched. The group stared, the difference impossible to miss. 3 men stood, all bloodied, exhausted, but only one stood pristine. Amy let out a shaky breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Seeing Itachi among them, calm and steady, eased the knot in her chest. Herschel and Jenner stepped forward at once, eyes going straight to Daryl, who was clutching his bandaged shoulder. What happened? Herschel asked. Daryl shifted his weight, grimacing. Got grazed by a bullet. Come here, Jenner said quickly. We'll patch you up. As they guided Daryl towards the porch, Andrea's eyes swept the group. Her voice wavered. Where's Dale? Rick's jaw tightened. His fist clenched at his side as he forced the words out. He didn't make it. Andrea's face crumpled, tears welling in her eyes. Amy pressed closer to her sister, her own tears spilling over as she tried to hold them back. From the back of the group, Jim's voice broke through. What happened out there? Everyone was gathered inside the house, crowded together in the living room, as Rick told them how they had gone up against 30 armed men. How they'd followed Itachi's plan to the letter. How Dale had helped Daryl before ultimately passing. And how they'd been forced to battle their way back through a small horde drawn in by the gunfire. The room went silent, stunned. 30 men were brought down by only 4. And from the way Rick spoke, it was clear who had made it possible. Itachi's contribution hadn't just been part of it, it had been the foundation. Shane finally broke the silence, his eyes narrowing as he looked at Rick. You know, now that I think about it, how the hell did Randall turn into a walker? We saw him laying there dead. Rick's stare hardened. He looked at Shane for a long moment before his gaze shifted towards Itachi. The boy gave a small nod. Rick then spoke. We're all infected. Carol's eyes widened. And you hadn't said anything. Shane's voice rose. You knew this the whole time. Before Rick could answer, Jenner walked back into the room, wiping his hands after helping Herschel. I told him. T-Dog spun towards him. And you didn't think we have the right to know. Jenner shook his head slowly. We planned to tell everyone after things had calmed down. This was never meant to be a secret. Glenn's voice cracked. And because of that, Dale's dead. Rick slumped down into a chair. I know, this is all my fault. Shane stepped forward, closing the distance until he was right in Itachi's face. You knew. But the words caught in his throat. For the first time since he'd met him, Shane saw real anger in Itachi's eyes. A cold fury that made his skin prickle, like his neck would be split open if he dared utter another word. Andreas' voice cut through the tension. God, can you all just shut up already? You're standing here pointing fingers, saying what should have been done or shouldn't. She took a breath, her tone softening just a little. Look, blaming them isn't gonna help. They know what went wrong. Right now, we need to let it go and get some rest. None of us have slept all night. Jim spoke up from the corner. And you're forgetting, we're alive because of them. Let's just all calm down. Nobody wanted Dale to die, but it was ultimately his choice to risk his life by going out there. Herschel gave a slow nod. He's right. Dale knew the risks, and he made his choice. We honor that by carrying on, not by tearing each other apart. The room went quiet after that. No one had the strength left to argue. One by one, they started preparing to settle in for the night, drifting off towards their tents. Itachi and Amy stepped outside together. How are you holding up? Itachi asked. Amy gave a small, sad smile, her arms folding across her chest. It's hard. Dale was one of the first people Andrea and I met when all this started. We were stuck in Atlanta when everything went bad, and we didn't know where to go or what to do. He let us ride with him, and after that, he just, kind of became family. If it wasn't for him, Andrea and I would probably still be stuck out there. She looked down at the dirt, her voice softer now. He kept us safe when we didn't have a clue what was going on. And even when there wasn't enough food to go around, he'd give us his without a second thought. Itachi studied her for a moment before speaking. Then remember him that way. Keep him alive in your memories for as long as you live. Amy's lips trembled into the faintest smile, and she gave a small nod before turning toward the RV. Itachi watched her go for a moment longer before turning back towards his own tent. Test tube author's note. Thank you all so much for the support, over 900 plus power stones. So I started creating some OCs for the MC's future squad. I know it's still early, but planning them out now will help me figure out the best time to introduce them later. If you've got any cool ideas for an OC, feel free to drop them in the comments. Appearance, personality, quirks, or even a bit of backstory. If it fits the story and I like it, there's a good chance I'll include it. Just a heads up, the squad will be more of an assassin unit, so the OCs should match that theme. I might be posting an extra one later today if I can finish it, otherwise, it'll be up tomorrow. And of course, let me know what you thought about this chapter. Blackheart, thanks again for reading.